Good evening. Hello, good evening.
This is Jon Snow, Making the News, an Audible original podcast. To be a journalist is a really very special privilege. 48 years or whatever it is a long time to be doing it. I'm sure I've crossed the line many times. I thought for a completely bonkers moment, should I shoot him? We knew we were in a moment of great history.
Well, Mrs. Thatcher's now gone over to greet the crowds.
I never imagined really that I would become a TV reporter in any description.
How soon do you think you'll be able to name your cabinet?
Well, certainly not today.
If she felt like saying to you, as she often did, "What a perfectly stupid question," you would think, well, hang on a minute, it's my job to ask you the questions. And she didn't like being queried.
This is now the great photo call.
When people talk to you about your own views and all the rest of it, they matter not a tinker's cuss. The truth of the matter is that you are there as their eyes and ears. You've got to try and introduce the viewer to who these people are.
I know that you're interested in, and indeed actually go along with, much of what Mr. Enoch Powell has been saying recently.
There were two Idi Amins. One was avuncular and rather jolly, and the other was a tyrannical killer, and you were never quite sure which one you were going to meet. He invited me to fly with him in his executive jet, and I was sitting next to him. And at one point in the flight, I realized that between us, under the armrest, there was a holster hanging from him with a gun in it. And I thought for a completely bonkers moment, should I shoot him? Of course, I should have shot him, really, but I'd have had to go with him. It was a place of tyranny and in many ways horror. We knew we were in a moment of great history. The idea it would ever come down was simply unimaginable.
Now suddenly the wall is many times breached. It was Mr. Gorbachev who refused to allow his troops to help defend it. None of the experts ever believed things would work out this way.
It was incredible. It was utterly elating. You think something has happened that is of such enormity that it can't be overwhelmed by anything else, but it always is. We were just knocking round the site, which nobody had ever walked in. And there were we now looking into what was a graveyard where so many, hundreds and hundreds of people had died. The ground was so hot. It was really hot. You had to be really careful where you trod. I think what happens is that a kind of process sets in. Of course, I was emotionally affected by it. And that emotional effect would have translated itself into the way I wrote my script and the way we edited the story. But I think in a strange sort of way, doing the job took you on a journey that took you through the emotional shock and the rest of it and brought you out the other side. I felt honored to have been there. In Haiti, you were dealing with a very underdeveloped country where there was great poverty and no resource. We felt we were also in another role besides that of journalists explaining what had happened. I think we were also trying to wake the world up.
The dog search finds nothing. They'll spend all day here.
you're trying to let the viewer see what's happening, what it is that has happened, and also perhaps help to ease their frustration that there's nothing they can do, because there is something they can do. You could almost argue that it was an appeal. I've never thought of intervening, no, never. But I certainly hope that my reports have intervened, and I mean them to intervene. He was an hour late coming out, and I had to keep talking on ITV for an hour. And then suddenly, there he was, coming towards us, hand in hand with Winnie Mandela. And as he approached where we were, I burst into tears. Fortunately, there was so much noise, and there was so much attention on him, it didn't matter what anybody else did. And I didn't have to say anything, it was live. And eventually I dried my eyes, I got on with the job. But that, I think, is one of those occasions when you become completely overwhelmed by your own thoughts, triggered by a very, very wonderful event, the release of Nelson Mandela. You know, lockdown is a real problem. It's not the way you do journalism. Journalism is getting stuck in, not getting stuck out. There's only one story that I've got out to do, and that was about London Zoo running out of money. And I didn't need to meet anyone other than animals. We live in a world in which it's very easy to play with the facts. It's very easy to stalk the truth. And our job, if anything, I think is now more important than it's ever been. Thank you for watching The Journey Through My Career. If you want to listen to the podcast, you can download it right now.
Sorry, can I do one more take?